All right, welcome back to another episode of Leah's Lens. If you're joining from Author Spotlight or Power of Story, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Today we have a special guest, Stephanie Palmer. She is the editorial director at Self Published in 30 Days. She's also a published author. You published, is it 3 books now, or do you have more than
Four.
that? You
I
have
have
four.
four. Four.
Okay, you have four. And I'm so excited to interview you today. I read your chapter in Visionistas Volume 1 yesterday, and that chapter is amazing. Oh my goodness, I want to get the whole book and, review the whole book for Leah's Lens. Your chapter is called More Than Enough and really inspiring. And I'd like to just kind of start there, what made you I guess write that chapter More Than Enough. I mean, you kind of explain in the chapter why you decided to title that, because it was actually going to be titled something different. But yeah, what made you wanna write about More Than Enough?
Awesome. Well, before we jump in, I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm honored to be your guest on Leah's Lens, and being able to see things from your perspective is absolutely amazing. And to just jump right in, even before we dive into the chapter, I am the COO of Self Published in 30 Days as well, so the creative operating officer. So I kind of dive in, and I'm on all the different aspects, basically the nucleus of the company, to where I'm over the design team, over the editing team, and just putting my hands on all of that, being creative, and that's really huge for me, for someone who didn't really even think I was creative to begin with. So
You're a rock star. You do
yeah.
so much for this company. We would not do it.
Yes.
We couldn't be here without you.
Yes, absolutely. And I absolutely love every aspect of it. So to tie in and to jump in with my chapter in the book, for the volume 1 of Visionistas, is it's really segued from the first book, from Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, because and I'm gonna jump. So I'm gonna do a little hop and skipping. So I actually wrote Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, and after that was published, that's when I kind of we came up with Visionistas. So Darren, the chief book officer, and I, who he also happens to be my husband. I don't tell too many people that, but now everyone's gonna know. So the cat is out of the bag. But we actually came up with that concept. I had really came from a dark place. So if you even happen to read Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, you will see the transformation and the transition from really being a stay-at-home mom and to kind of coming into different aspects of the business, and I was kind of tiptoeing around because it was Darren's business, so I didn't know really where I kind of fit in, but I knew that I wanted to help. So the Visionistas aspect really came in from of course, Darren assisted with it, but we came in because I was really questioning my vision and what it was that God wanted me to do, and He just kept pouring into me, that I had a vision, because I ultimately thought my vision was just to really, or my purpose was just to help Darren with his vision, but God, reassured me that He had given me a vision. And so we kind of looked at the Visionistas aspect as, collaborating with other women. So it is a co-authored project, which I absolutely love the co-author aspect and component of it. You're able to network with other amazing women. So I said all that to say my chapter really talks about really coming out of that dark place and going through the healing, because it wasn't until after I had published Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife that I even knew that of really how dark of a place that I was in. It's kind of like you didn't know how far you had dug the hole until you were looking up and seeing that you were so far out. So I really had to do some healing. I'm always viewed as mother or wife, and I really just had to kind of take a step and look at who Stephanie was. So that's really where the whole chapter came from.
Yeah, I love what you just said. You're always viewed as mother or wife, and I come from a family of all girls, and they're all mothers, and I want to send them this chapter and this whole book of, like, you are your own person, and then being a mom and a wife is just kind of, also what you do, but it's not who you are as a whole, and you don't have to view yourself as that always. So it's such an inspiring chapter. I read it like 3 times. And I started Diary of Entrepreneur's Wife, which loved it. I'm excited to get more into that because that one was just a solo project, right?
Yes, that one,
Okay.
that's really what ultimately, I guess, got my feet wet, so to speak, in writing. Because I didn't want to do something that I was helping other people that I hadn't done before. So as someone in the company, it was something I wanted to be able to say, yes, I published a book, so I know what that process looks like. I know the hurt, the pain, the peeling back all those layers. I know what that looks like. So it helped me to be able to relate to the people that I was helping.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it was, probably a fun process. I know how the process works here at Self Published in 30 Days, and it turned out to be, an amazing book. So that was your very first book that you published, right? That's what you said.
Yes, that's
Okay.
the very first one.
And
Yes.
then you have the introduction to Visionistas Volume 2, which I
Yes.
have that actual book, which I am obsessed with it. I love that book. And then what's your fourth one? I don't know about your fourth one.
Okay, so it's another collaborative effort, collaborative piece. It's Footprint of Success. So it's really talking about entrepreneurship and leadership. And really that piece and I wrote the chapter that I wrote in that book. And you're going to put me on the spot because I can't even remember. It's been published for so long.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the name of that chapter. But it was really coming from the piece of not really realizing that I was an entrepreneur because even with the title Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, I had never saw myself as an entrepreneur. It was something I had grown up with, the traditional 9 to 5 piece, and it was something that I did not see for myself. So really being able to talk and elaborate on what that looked like and transition from, being the traditional 9 to 5 employee to becoming, an entrepreneur and being able to facilitate and help in the different departments using the skill sets that I had learned and acquired everywhere else and be able to apply them in the business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you're totally an entrepreneur. Oh my goodness. Even if, I feel like sometimes entrepreneur is, I don't know. I've always viewed it as like I had to have a business and like have to have my own shop or something. But that's totally not what an entrepreneur is. I feel like it's just, kind of living in your vision and putting that into fruition of, whoa, that rhymed. Maybe I should write
Hey,
a
there you
poetry
go.
book.
Yeah, it's like that. Hey, yeah, play that back. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's amazing. So, I really want to know how, obviously you published the first book, Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, to kind of get your toes wet, and you're helping people publish. You wanted to know what that was like, but how has it changed your life? Besides, I guess, work, and what you do for a living.
Well, and I will go into the wife aspect. I will go into even the entrepreneur aspect. So during the time that I wrote Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, it was probably one of the darkest seasons of my adult life, and even since I had been married. So really, writing that book transformed me first and foremost. Then it transformed my marriage, and then it transformed the vision that I even saw for myself. So it transformed, there were layers, there were so many layers. And I think I even had to read back multiple times, kind of like how you said you read the chapter 3 times. And I even reread that chapter last night as well. But I had to really look that I didn't know how far I was out there. I didn't know how scary things were, with marriage on the brink, my kids, I have an infant, the business was just getting started, so there were so many components to life that I had just gotten lost in all of it. I lost who I was. Basically I was spinning my wheels, and I say it all the time. There are days where the business helps my marriage, and there's days where my marriage helps the business. So they go hand in hand. But it really ultimately, writing that book it's what changed the trajectory of my life, because I was able to see me through the pages. And that's something that I think even authors, when, writing their books, they don't really realize that they're just doing it. They want to be published, but you really don't see, because that book really ultimately is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your pain. It's a reflection of everything that you had experienced. So even in Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife, some of those entries are diary entries that I actually was writing when, I had the tear stained pages, when, I was up every night, crying myself to sleep, not knowing what each day was going to hold. So being able to take that and create something amazing from it, to be able to help other women. And I will even say, I'm not one to promote me, but even reading it now, it's kind of one of those things, like, I can't believe that I've experienced all that I experienced, and I came out on this other side much better, because there were moments where, and even talks about in the book, where, Darren had some very difficult conversations. And I know that, you've been with the company. So there are some tough, he gives some tough love, and just being able to be in a place to receive that, which, I went kicking and screaming every once in a while, but just knowing that his heart was in the right place, and I had to view it as something that was going to help me in the long run. And really, like I said, with the marriage component being on, it was basically kind of one of those, like, hey, we're at a crossroads, and if something doesn't change, then something's going to change ultimately. So that's really where it stemmed from. And it was kind of one of those things, like, I didn't want to lose my family. I didn't want to lose all of those things. But in the midst of it, I found myself.
I love that. I love that. And what you said too, it was almost like therapeutic. And I'm a big journaler. So I have like 3 different journals that I carry with me all the time. For different things. And to me, that's my therapy, is just writing down, like, getting kind of this brain dump onto a piece of paper. And so to put actual, like, journal entries into a book and have it published, that way you can, like, go back and read it, is amazing. And it's a way to see, now you read back and you've seen, wow, I've grown so much since I've even published this book, or, you remember writing it. And I think that's so inspiring. So I'm so excited. I just got goosebumps. I'm so excited to read the rest of Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife. But I guess you're kind of talking about these, like, life-changing moments of, you kind of had this, I guess, dilemma of, like, if something doesn't change, something's going to change. So was that the life-changing moment that really led you down this path, which now, you're like the brains behind self-published in 30 days. I like to see it like that. I call you, I'm like, hey, I need this. What do you think? We're going back and forth, which I love. I love the creativity. So, I guess without this book, or without this, this life-changing moment, do you think this is the path you would be on?
Absolutely not. And Darren and I talk about it all the time, and it's always great to reflect, because, you're one decision away from your best life. You're one decision away from ultimately living, leaving the legacy that you want to live. You're one decision away. And really, and there was several conversations that Darren and I had, but he basically said, you are where you are right now because of the decisions that you've made. So you have the children that you have because of the decisions that you made. You have the marriage that you have because of the decisions that you made. You have the life, the bank account, everything that you have is ultimately because of the decisions that you've made. So it took that to really realize that I had to make decisions that were going to be beneficial for the long run, instead of, I would get caught up in the temporary, the moment. And even, like I said, circling back, I didn't realize that I had postpartum depression the way that I did, but I know I had it I read that. I think I shared that in the Visionistas Volume 1. I had postpartum depression, with both of my pregnancies with my other children, but I had come to a place where, like, I'm married, everything is good, all of this. But we went through some difficult times, financial strains, family issues that, outside of the home, inside of the home, and all of these things led up to me saying, it came to a point where Darren was like, I was getting ready to go back to school, and I was actually in school. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go be an English teacher. That's the path for me. I love writing, and that's just something I'm going to do. And he was in the trenches with the business. I was taking care of our infant, our newborn son. And he was like, I went for a semester, and he was like, well, I really, I could use your help. And it really took me from being selfish, because not that I was intentionally being selfish, but it was like I needed something for me. So
Mhm.
school was like, that was just something that I just gravitated toward. Like, let me just do this for me, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with the marriage type thing. And he was like, I could use your help. So I started part-time. So it was something that I was just doing to really, it started ultimately being just something to help my husband until he could, transition and get more people involved or whatever that business looked like. So, I even had separation anxiety from our youngest, had to put him in daycare, and separation anxiety from a mother and a child is real.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and that was something that, I had to work through, but we started out slowly, and it was 2 days a week. I was doing that for a while, and then, and that was working, but then there needed to be more. So I had to come to a decision. He's like, well, you're really not, you're doing a lot, but you're not doing, or you're doing quite a bit. And he was grateful for what I was doing, but it still wasn't getting us to where we wanted to be financially, still wasn't where we wanted to be, within the business. So it was kind of one of those things where I had to make a decision. I was like, okay. I went one day, like we had a intense discussion, I will say. And it was one of the, so I went the next day and I started researching other facilities to go ahead and put my son in full time. And I was like, okay, I'm all in. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I went from editing just a little bit to kind of, learning different areas of the business to where I could be able to take as much off of his plate as I possibly could to be beneficial, really ultimately for the family. But at the same time, I always have to, pull in the reins because I can get carried away. There are nights where I can stay up till 11 or 12 o'clock, like, oh, I just need to finish this, or, oh, I just need to finish that. So creating what I call, my balance is what ultimately, that's what I'm working through this season.
Mhm. Oh, I love that. You dropped so many gems in there. I love every decision you make has led you to where you are right now. And one of the decisions that you made in the chapter that you wrote in Vision Jesus Volume 2, I'm going to just share a little bit. You said you started to replace every lie you had told yourself with two truths. I read that out loud. I was with my friend. I'm like, y'all, listen to this. Like, that's such a cool way to think because there's that game, right? Two truths and a lie. And I feel like, especially as women, I don't think I necessarily consciously lie to myself, but it's almost like intrusive thoughts where I think differently of myself because of things I see on social media or just what other people are doing with their life or whatever it is. So I want to kind of go through that mentality of like, what kind of truths would you tell yourselves to replace those lies? And like, how did you come up with that?
You really, like, I have no idea how I even came up with it. And it could have been something that triggered my thoughts during a podcast or something, even, thinking about it in this moment. I have no idea, but it would just be things like, that you're not good enough, and then I would just have to, counter that with, my children love me. My children are being they're taken care of. My husband appreciates me. I am good enough. I don't have to be a certain weight. I don't have to look a certain way. I am who I am. Where I am right now, I'm going to currently love where I am and then also work to get better. So it's just, it was ultimately whatever that lie was. And let me tell you, anything that is negative is deceit.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that is so, and it's all the time. Even like in this current season, working on improving my health. The scale may say one thing, but that doesn't mean that I have to harness that. So it doesn't matter what that number says. It doesn't matter, what the size on my pants say. It doesn't matter, if, my nose doesn't look a certain way. It doesn't matter if, any of those things. So just whatever it is that is deceiving, that is causing you to second guess or question your worth is a lie. And so
Mm-hmm.
just being able to take that and then just whatever negative energy, whatever negative thought, and then just automatically taking it to something positive. And I will say even practicing gratitude was extremely helpful when it came to that. So just the simple truths of, I think even like, like my gratitude for today was like peace and mindset, just having a positive mindset, not letting anything negative consume me, whether it be work or whatever. Or if somebody didn't like the edits that I did, that doesn't mean that I'm not a good editor, whatever that looks like. I would just counter it with something positive as opposed to dwelling on the negative.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. I've said this to Darren a couple times, but talking about those journals that I carry around, one of them is specifically for gratitude. And I'll write down, even if it's like the worst day ever, like think of three things that were good in your day or that were positive. It's like, I got out of bed. And sometimes that's all it takes, but it's a good thing. And you got out of bed and you made a day out of it. And another thing I always like to say is you can do anything in a day. You know, even if you did nothing that day, you did something. Like you
Yes.
did nothing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I love the practicing gratitude. But just to wrap things up, I guess what would be one parting kind of like thing of advice that you would give to listeners, whether that's writing a book or just getting started, or how the power of story can really change the trajectory of someone's life.
Well, first and foremost, I would say that if you feel led or compelled to share your story, then that feeling, that tug, that pull is there for a reason, and you need to listen to it. Our stories ultimately help us, and then they help other people. So you will learn through it, you will grow through it, and you will become a better version of yourself just by getting it out. I highly encourage anyone and everyone to share their story. You know, I consider myself a self-proclaimed book therapist. So anyone that is at a place where, yes, they feel led to share their story, but they don't know where to start or what that even looks like. Myself, we have amazing editors on the team. We have Leah, we have Darren, we have a full-fledged team that can help walk you through that process. And I just highly encourage anyone, even if it's a collaborative piece, maybe you don't feel like you can write an entire book. That's completely okay. Or become a facilitator, do one chapter, and then help others write their chapter, is, bring them on to write a chapter and collaborate together. I will say Visionistas was one of the best decisions that I had ever made. And it was something that, I ultimately felt that it was for me, but I didn't realize how many other women that it would impact. We currently are getting ready to work on volume 3, but we have over 20 something women that have already written their chapters, and their lives have changed because of it. And my life, yes, my life has changed because I have been impacted by what they have shared. So it's all around. And I even look at it and I will say, and look, and you said lasting peace, and I'm rambling.
Go
But
off, go off.
the legacy piece, it is something that is going to outlive you. It is going to be there for your children, your children's children, your nieces, your nephews. Anyone and everyone has a story, and they should share it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our team members, YB, he always says, don't let a good story go to the grave. That's where the best stories are, in the graveyard, because people just die with them. And so get your story out there. Stephanie, it was such a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yes, yes.
For everyone listening, Stephanie Palmer, she is the COO and the editorial director of Self Published in 30 Days. She is a 4-time published author. I don't remember the fourth one. What's the fourth book?
Footprint of Success.
Footprint of Success, and that's a co-authored project. She has 2 other co-authored projects, Visionistas Volume 1 and 2, and Diary of an Entrepreneur's Wife. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so excited we got to do this.
Yes.
So yeah, well, if you're listening from Power of Story or Author Spotlight, thank you for joining, and hope to see you soon on Leah's Lens.
Bye.